Hey everybody, I'm Brad and these are my builds. Last summer we decided we needed more furniture for our back patio, and I got the crazy idea that I was going to build them myself. Candidly, I have never really built anything, let alone furniture. So I headed down to Home Depot, as anybody would, to buy some basic tools and some wood. I ended up building a couple of Adirondack chairs using screws and butt joints, which I guess we can call woodworking, but hey, they're functional. Ever since then, I have been obsessed with woodworking. I took some basic classes at our local art institute, which is the space you see here that I get to rent out for the day. But for this project, we're going to be building a bench from Cedar 2x4's without any fancy joints or screws, just glue. And I wanted to keep this project cheap, but my goal was to build something that looked a bit more modern than those chairs. In order to get that modern look I'm envisioning, we need to mill these boards down so they are square, which will enable us to get a flush fit when we glue them up. So that is how I spent the better part of my Saturday. Apparently there was an issue with the dust collection system, which is why I felt like I was in a snowstorm of dust, especially on this joiner. This machine right here is the main reason why I needed this shop. Well, first of all, I don't own a planer, and the planer is going to be critical for ensuring every piece is the same thickness. And honestly, it's also just fun. After you set the height, there's really nothing to it. You just pop them in. Or maybe it's just the least intimidating tool in the shop. That table saw still freaks me out. That's my shop buddy for the day. So I've been watching YouTube for years, mostly political content and stupid internet debates. But once I picked up woodworking, YouTube was honestly super helpful, even learning like basic tips and tricks. I learned to build those chairs from a DIY video, which I think I watched probably about 100 times before the project was over. Then I came across a channel called Blacktail Studio. And honestly, if you haven't come across this content yet, do yourself a favor and check it out. Well, at least after you watch my video. But Cam builds these walnut and epoxy tables, which are unbelievable. This is probably where my obsession really took root. I was completely mesmerized by the craftsmanship and the creativity when he actually built a desk completely out of denim and epoxy. It's unreal. Ultimately, though, I think I love seeing something come to life, right? Seeing the process from start to finish, from lumber into usable furniture, and I find that very satisfying. So shout out to Cam at Blacktail Studio. His work is honestly what inspired me to give this a try. See, my fear is not unjustified. I almost got a 2x4 in the face. At this point, we're using the table saw so we can trim off the last bit of the edge of these boards, and this will complete the milling process and give us a square piece. I'm thankful this shop is available. If you're not familiar with any woodworking tools, it's hard to overstate how nice this table saw is compared to what I use at home. I've been using basically the cheapest job site saw available. It's horribly loud, shaky, and if you're lucky, you might get a straight cut. So I did manage to get all the milling done for the most part at the shop. I would have started the next phase at the shop, but honestly, the glue up for this project proved much trickier than I expected. I ran out of time at the shop and had to complete the project at home. But hey, now you get to see my backyard. One of these days I'm going to redo this deck. Hey, maybe that's my next video. Ideally, we would want to glue this all up in one shot. My first problem, I didn't have enough glue on hand to even try. Second, I couldn't even get the dry run right. From the little experience I have, I know the terror of trying to get all the pieces and clamps in place before the glue dries up and your project is. So I wanted the bench to be about 5 feet wide and 18 inches tall. I have other benches around my house and that felt like the right dimensions. Of course, I cut and milled every piece of wood and measured out the legs to 18 inches, but did not take into account the difference here on the width of the seat. So now we get more chop shots. Funny enough, I chose this project because of its simplicity. Guess that proves the best laid plans don't go off without a hitch. Or maybe just PTSD from the storage cabinet I built. It's going to be a while before I build anything with drawers in it. If you've made it this far in the video, honestly, I appreciate it. But you're probably wondering what the goal with this design is. You can see here I'm staggering the pieces for the top of the bench and then alternating with the legs. Ultimately, this will give us corners of the bench that have kind of a faux box joint look. Now we finally get a little preview of what the finished one should look like. Everything measures to 18. I left the width on there, so it's about 64 inches instead of 60. And of course, because I didn't plan properly, there's some pieces in here that I had to add in to make the full length. I'm gonna put them in the middle of this stack here. And with the amount of glue we're gonna be using, that really shouldn't be an issue. Ultimately, I decided the only way to glue this up properly was to do one layer at a time. So I'd spread some glue to every surface that is touching another piece and clamp it up. I'd then wait a few hours for it to dry and rinse and repeat. Well, that was the plan at least. After I got about 2 layers in, I noticed I'd made a crucial error. The leg pieces were just slightly thicker than the legs. And honestly, I was racking my brain on where I went wrong. And the only explanation is someone adjusted the planer while I was milling. Come on, Mike. Really? The problem with this predicament is that the pieces are already glued up. So I busted out the old block plane. And hey, we get to make some curls. I'm thankful I only have to do this once. I have the perfect tool for all the unglued pieces. I have this little 6-inch Rikon joiner in my home shop. It's perfect for pieces like this. Now I'm actually ready for the rest of the glue up. And here's a quick shot of all those stages. This probably took me about a week to complete. Maybe you can help me out in the comments with a different approach for the glue up. Because I did notice that throughout the week, as this bench lived outside, it was subject to different temperatures, and I did notice a lot more wood movement between glue ups than I expected. But hey, we did it. Now for every woodworker's favorite part, sanding. Hours and hours of sanding. I was lucky enough to find this old belt sander at a garage sale, which made this portion much more manageable. But I started at 80 grit and progressed my way up to 220 for the finish. I probably need a dust collection bag for this one. Sorry, neighbors. I did start to notice some gaps forming at the corner joints. So I put some wood filler in there, which I made from sawdust and glue. Seemed to work pretty well. The idea is this bench is going to live outside all year round, and I live in the Pacific Northwest, so obviously rain's going to be a concern. I didn't want this bench sitting in puddles of rain through the fall and winter, so I'm installing these feet with these threaded inserts to keep it just slightly elevated. So far, I've found woodworking incredibly rewarding. It is definitely frustrating at times, but there's something really cool about bringing an idea you have in your mind into existence. I also find it therapeutic. I imagine that's the case when doing anything with your hands, but I work in tech sales, so my average day is spent behind a computer screen. I also get a kick out of how easily impressed my 4-year-old is at times. I'll come up to her, "Hey kid, look what daddy built."
Whoa, no way.
She is actually starting to show a little bit of interest. She actually helped me pick out this stain. We ended up going with a Minwax, I believe poly shades in a dark walnut color. Let me know what you think of this choice in the comments. I ended up doing 2 coats of this stain, and after it cured for a few hours, I started to notice Just little holes and cracks and seams that you could see because they were very white in contrast to this dark stain. So I spent another couple days filling those. If you made it this far in the video, thank you. And if you want to see more content like this, please like and subscribe.